My favorite concert program for sure was Lord of the Rings, and you're probably going to get that from everybody because it was just so, my fangirl and my music nerd collided into one.
I'm a giant Tolkien nerd. And so being able to play the Lord of the Rings symphony was a really moving experience. And to see how one of my favorite composers, Howard Shore, took inspiration from the original symphony that we had played was really rewarding. Close second would have to be Bernstein. Just Candide puts a smile on my face every time.
We had this one concert, and we had this guy that was doing some artwork, and he was throwing paint on a canvas. I believe it was Mars the Planets, and he did a painting while we did the concert, and that was pretty cool.
There was a program we did with water, and it was so cool because it was like the different elements of water, so like how water can make you feel calm and this beautiful element, but also like the adventurous, like pirate ships and things. And it was so cool to hear like brass use their instrument in a different way, and then, you know, woodwinds would use their instrument in a different way. And there was like even a piccolo solo that I did with bass clarinet Michael, and it was so much fun.
I remember my first rehearsal very well. It was in 2009. Acqui had just moved to Covenant, and I didn't know it at the time, so they were actually kind of going through some changes. And I show up at the rehearsal, and there's probably only about 25 or 30 people there, and I was the only tuba. So there was a point where the band had gotten really small, and I thought, oh, great, you know, they need me. They need a tuba player, so I kind of felt really good about that. And then it turned out there were actually 4 other tuba players. They just weren't there that particular day.
I do very vividly remember the first ensemble back after the pandemic. It's one thing to play music by yourself, but it's another entirely to play music with a bunch of people who are also passionate about what you do. And just, there's nothing like that energy. And that's the memory that's ingrained in my head.
I was studying music, and then because of the competitiveness of the program as a whole, really, I just couldn't keep up. So after years of kind of feeling sorry for myself, I had to, I just decided that it was time to get back into what I love to do most. When the president asked, like, what's your name, like, how'd you find us and all that, I remember the last thing I said was, this has been the best decision of my life, because I immediately felt happy. I felt like I belonged somewhere. I definitely felt like I was back home.
In 1978, we were in the Firehouse community room, and I don't remember how many there were. I want to say there maybe not 20, not that many. And then we had issues, and then there were like 10 of us sitting in a circle. And then as time went by, it just grew.
When you want to talk about achievements with Acqui, you kind of got to take the bad with the good. And that's really a big part of the story of Acqui, is their resilience to respond to adversity. And probably one of the biggest things that ever hit Acqui was in late 1978 going into 1979, there was a split with the group. There were a handful of people that wanted the group to go in one direction, mainly a more serious approach. And there was another group that was like, yeah, we just want this to be a fun thing.
I started in 1998, and Rick Glasscock was the conductor at the time. It was actually a pretty healthy band. It was the numbers were kind of low. It was probably in the mid maybe 50s and 60s and stuff like that. We were at the School for the Blind. The level at which the band was playing at that time was reasonable, since we didn't have any auditions or anything like that.
I've been in Acqui almost 40 years. Now, for the first 20 years, I never told anybody I was in a band. You know, it was something I did for me. I didn't go back, I do this every Tuesday, I have these concerts. And I got busted because we did the Zilker Christmas tree lighting. And that day, the cameraman from the TV decided to zoom in on me playing with my little hat on, you know. And I mean, by the time I got home, my phone was blowing up. I'm going like, that many people saw me on TV?
This is Acqui to me. This was around 2007. The original Alamo Draft House was closing. Jason Moore was the president, the president of the board, and he got a call from the guy from Alamo Draft House that was putting Weird Wednesdays together. The movie that they were presenting is a movie called Snakes. That movie was about a serial killer who would lead his victims into a pit of snakes, throw them in, and play Sousa. If you give me the movie, I'll figure out which Sousa marches they are. We did figure out the marches. So we got a mini-wee group together. They were so appreciative that we timed it. I mean, everything with the movie, everything went perfect. So the audience at the end, they asked us if we would just play all the marches. So we did. The problem is the Weird Wednesday started like at midnight. You know, so we didn't get out of there until like 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock.
One particular rehearsal where we were playing Bernstein selections, we were playing on the waterfront, and our flute section leader was absent on that day, and there was nobody else that was willing to take on the solo that was needed. So I decided I was brave enough to try the solo myself. And after I did the solo and all that, I remember Robert looking at me and being all like, "You sound so beautiful." And then everyone in the band just started applauding for me. And that just made me feel so proud to have that moment, even though it wasn't a live concert. I just felt like, this is where I belong.
But I also have people that I try to help, play the instrument a little bit better, or, hey, have you thought about tweaking this with your instrument so they can sound how they want to sound? So it's taking other people's experiences and my experiences and blowing it up onto a community where we get to play music, and it's a lot of giving back, but you get so much in return. So I think that's what's really cool about ACWI.
We had a guy who was from Mexico, and he was a really good trumpet player. And he didn't speak a lick of English, but it didn't matter because the notes were the same whether you speak English, French, or German. Every once in a while, he'd have a question. He'd raise his hand up, and he'd ask Robert a question in Spanish, and Robert's Puerto Rican, so he speaks fluent Spanish. So they would have a little conversation. He'd go, "Got it," and then we'd go on.
I just love being in an environment where I'm surrounded by other talented musicians that have the same love of music I do. I also like playing in the summer series because I just love patriotic music. And it's a lot of fun, and the audience knows all the patriotic music. So for me, the summer program's a lot of fun, too.
I'd also like to point out the Zilker tree lighting. I feel a special affinity for that event, especially there's many years where the crowd will get up or close to us, and they'll be really into it. You can see them bouncing around and getting into it, and that's what I really like is just to see, have fun playing, but also see the audience enjoying it as well. And it seems like every year, even if it's cold and raining or something adverse going on with it just seems like that's always a really fun event, is playing the Zilker tree lighting.
Community bands are a really great thing. If you've been in music and you really loved it in high school, to have things like ACWI and the other community bands around, or community orchestras, where you can keep playing even if you're not going to be a professional.
My life has benefited. One, now that I'm a mom, just getting out on a Tuesday night is wonderful, but just the friends and the community that we've gained from it, the networking, the experiences, the relationships, all of that stuff. I mean, I call Kathy my flute mama, and now I have Melissa who sits behind me, and she's my other flute mama. So I have 2 flute mamas. It's wonderful.
My life has been benefited by being a member of ACWI in immeasurable ways. I feel more connected to my community. I feel like more of just a sense of place of being in Austin. I feel like I didn't really have a connection to the city until I had people to play music with. And, the Wind Ensemble has been an institution for the last 50 years, and so it has deep roots inside of this city.
ACWI has definitely changed my life for the better. I'm able to, meet people that I never would probably meet outside of my day-to-day life.
Tuesday night is ACWI night, and it's been that way since 1982. I like being there. I like hanging out with the people. I like seeing Janet Rice, who welcomed me my first day. It was Esther Porter and Janet Rice. And Janet Rice has been one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And when you meet people like that in an organization, that's what music does. It brings a diverse group of people together doing one thing. You got a piece of music, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from.
Well, I've always been playing my trumpet my whole life. I've never taken a break. So my life has benefited by keeping up my skills and being surrounded by, like I said, other people who are talented and love music, and just connecting with them and having opportunities to play, concerts, not only with ACWI, but outside of ACWI, by connecting with other musicians. So yeah, I'm planning on staying with it hopefully another 30 years.
I always want to make sure that people get enough of a challenge that they feel that we've accomplished something throughout that year. Because if you don't, you feel like you're working backwards, and that's also not good. My approach has always been, if people think that they've improved even 1% that year, then I'm happy.